When a mother has experienced a chronic low milk supply with one of her babies, she may wonder what she can do the next time around to have a greater milk supply. Fortunately, there are many ways a mom can increase her milk supply with subsequent children. I'm Lisa Morosco, an International Board Certified Lactation Consultant and co-author of the Breastfeeding Mother's Guide to Making More Milk. Today we are discussing breastfeeding after a previous low milk supply. This is the Boob Group, episode 28.
Breast milk, it does a baby good.
Silly daddy, boobs are for babies.
I make milk. What's your superpower?
If my breastfeeding offends you, put a blanket over your head.
Dairy diva. Don't be lactose intolerant. Nursing nature's own breast enhancement.
Meals on heels.
Whoever said there's no use crying over spilled milk never had to pump.
Breast milk. All udders are inferior.
Whatever your point of view, we're here to support your breastfeeding goals. We're the Boob Group, because mothers know breast. Welcome to the Boob Group, broadcasting from the Birth Education Center of San Diego. I'm your host, Robin Kaplan. I'm also an International Board Certified Lactation Consultant and owner of the San Diego Breastfeeding Center. At the Boob Group, we're your online support group for all things related to breastfeeding. Have you joined our brand new Boob Group Club? All Boob Group Club members will get access to all of our archived episodes, plus bonus interviews, transcripts, and special discounts and giveaways from our partners. Plus, you can interact with all of the great content through the web or through our free Boob Group app, available at Apple iTunes Store and Amazon Marketplace. Today, I'm joined by three lovely panelists in the studio. Ladies, will you introduce yourselves, please?
Hi, my name is Ashley. I'm a speech pathologist, and I have two children, both girls. One is 2 years old, and one is 3 months old.
I'm Laura. I'm 31. I'm a stay-at-home mom to two boys, ages 4 and 20 months.
I'm Elizabeth. I'm also 31, and I am a master's student becoming an acupuncturist. I have one child, and he is almost 8 months old.
Fantastic. Thank you for coming to the show, ladies. So let's kick off today's episode with some breastfeeding stories making headlines around the internet. This story and all of them are placed on our Boob Group Pinterest board if you'd like to check them out. So something that I found was that there's an organization, and we mention them quite often actually, called Best for Babes, and they have a brand new nursing in public hotline. And what they've done is they've decided to help different states realize how challenging it can be for women to meet their breastfeeding goals when they're having a tough time breastfeeding in public. And so they set up this hotline where moms who have been victimized through a nursing in public incident can call and report the issue to Best for Babes. And they're hoping that this will, if they can record all of them and keep records of them, that they can then share these with lawmaking people who will hopefully start putting this into practice, into their laws, that nursing in public and discriminating against it is actually not constitutional. So, ladies, I was just going to kind of open this up to you. What do you think about this hotline, and do you think it might be helpful?
I think anything that gathers support from other women that are breastfeeding to make it more comfortable for me to go out to a restaurant or to sit in a library and be able to nurse my daughter and feel comfortable would be great.
How about you, Laura?
I think any support moms can get in breastfeeding, no matter where they are, is great.
Absolutely. And the nice thing is that it's, when you call, everything is kept confidential, so it's not like your name's going to be put out there. And the cool thing also is one of the women who's actually spearheading this is Michelle Hickman, who, aka Target Mom. So the woman who had, was kicked out of Target because she was breastfeeding there. So she's kind of making this her mission that she doesn't want that to happen to anyone else. So if you are interested in calling the Nursing in Public hotline for Best for Babes, the phone number is 855-NIP FREE. So 855 NIP free. Nursing in Public free. All right. Well, thanks for sharing your opinions, ladies, and we'll be right back. So today on the Boob Group, we're discussing breastfeeding after a previous low milk supply. Our expert, Lisa Morosco, is an International Board Certified Lactation Consultant in private practice and with WIC in Santa Barbara, California. She is also the co-author of the Breastfeeding Mother's Guide to Making More Milk and a contributing author to the core curriculum for lactation consultants. Thanks so much for joining us, Lisa, and welcome to the show.
Thank you so much.
So, Lisa, if you wouldn't mind, let's get started with the basics. And I realize this is a huge topic to tackle in such a short period of time, but what do you find are the main reasons why breastfeeding mothers may have a low supply?
I think that the main reason is one that encompasses most of the issues that we face, and that's just women not understanding how the process works, not understanding how to respond to their baby. We live in a predominantly bottle-feeding society, and we tend to approach our breastfed babies as if they were bottle-fed babies. So I find that women have expectations of how long a baby should sleep, what babies should do. And that we've kind of interfered. Our culture has really interfered with women being able to respond to what their baby's saying. If I need to eat every hour and a half, 2 hours, if that doesn't fit a bottle feeding baby paradigm. And so I find women trying to make their babies look like the other babies, and then in the process, by not responding enough, not feeding them enough, that probably is the number one cause of low milk production, that and the introduction of bottles too soon. There are many women and I work with a lot of women who are very, very concerned about the baby's ability to take a bottle before they go back to work. And practically from the time they come home from the hospital, that is their concern, that the baby takes a bottle. They may also put formula in the bottle, not realizing they could put breast milk in the bottle, and every time they replace a feeding that way, their body's getting less stimulation. So it's kind of a management thing, really, just a misunderstanding of how the process works, and sometimes women are unwittingly sabotaging themselves and unfortunately don't figure it out until things have started to deteriorate a bit.
Yeah. And how about for the women who are breastfeeding on their baby's cues? Is there a percentage maybe that you know of who actually clinically are having challenges bringing in a fuller milk supply based on their anatomy or their hormones and things like that?
I think I need to do a study on this. I get asked this question so many times, and there's only one study that attempted to address it. It was done in the 1980s, Marianne Neifert and her colleagues. And I don't remember the study group, is maybe 40, 80 women, something like that, and they found a 5% insufficient milk rate. And that's the basis of the number that continues to be quoted today, but it was a very small population, and we probably should check because I suspect there are more women struggling than we first thought.
Absolutely. Ladies in our panel, do you mind sharing when you were able to pinpoint that you had a low milk supply and possibly what caused it, if you happen to know that information? Ashley, do you mind?
With my first daughter, she had a poor latch, and I had a lot of pain. And so I think I had a hard time letting down and getting started really with breastfeeding. So I really only breastfed for a few days. So when it came to my second daughter, I wasn't sure how my supply was going to come in. Initially, it looked pretty good, and about 2 weeks in, it looked just a tad low. And it's been that way ever since. So I've tried lots of different things since then to figure out what's causing the supply issue, but I've never really pinpointed one thing.
How about you, Laura?
I was told with both of my boys at 2 days old that they'd lost too much weight, and it was that they weren't getting enough from breastfeeding. So it's pretty early on. And with both of them, I never really figured out why. I tried everything you can imagine to get supply up, and nothing ever helped.
Yeah. How about you, Elizabeth?
Not exactly. It was a complicated situation where it became evident that his latch was poor, but my supply seemed okay. And then it wasn't really until 4 to 5 months that I realized I might have insufficient glandular tissue, and that was why the supply was low. So I was never really sure if it was me or him. I was always trying to figure it out, and it kind of been on my own deciding what it was.
Sure. Lisa, when tongue tie and poor latch can be ruled out, what are some ways that a mom can increase her supply? Meaning more so it's kind of based on what's going on with her rather than with the baby.
Okay, so the number one golden rule is increasing frequency. In a reasonable manner, because I say that because people can take that too far and exhaust themselves. But if you've been feeding every 2.5, 3 hours, try try every 2 hours, try during the daytime, just picking the baby up very, very often and just trying to increase that frequency. That is the number one most important thing. Another thing that women do is pump, doing some post, and I often will have women pump maybe 5 or 10 minutes after each feeding just for additional stimulation. But the answer to that question really depends on what's going on. And with the 3 women here today, there are a lot of question marks, not really understanding. Is it my body? Is it something else? And my sense listening to the 3 of you today is that there's something going on with your body. And this, you may have already tried these things, and this may not address your problem. And so then galactagogues are something else that can be helpful. I am a big fan of being very intentional in selecting things, knowing as much as I can about what's going on. If it's the breast not growing enough during pregnancy, things like that, I will select specific herbs that have properties that may go that direction. That's the next level. Beyond that, there are a lot of complementary therapies that are worth considering as well, including acupuncture.
Yeah. Do you have others that you would like to mention as well?
I'm kind of exploring the placenta encapsulation right now. There's some old research on that. The jury is still out on that one, but I'd like to just kind of put that in the back of my mind. I'm very intrigued with chiropractics. There have been some cases. I've had a case of a mom whose milk supply was sluggish with her 5th, 6th child, and we were dealing with some tongue tie. We got that taken care of, and I sent her to the chiropractor because the baby was still not opening wide, and he worked on her, and turns out he asked her, gosh, how are you feeling? She said, well, I've had this back pain since pregnancy. And he worked on her, and she went home, and she said, later on that day, all of a sudden, my milk was coming out better. And we had been struggling for, 6 or 8 weeks, and all of a sudden, that was her thing. There was a problem with the nerves.
Okay, that's fascinating, because often I'll send babies to the chiropractor, but I haven't really thought of sending the mom to the chiropractor for that. So that is great advice. Lisa, when a woman is pregnant, are there certain, and she's had a previously low milk supply, are there safe herbs that she can take that might help maximize her supply the next time around?
Okay, so the word safe means we've studied it and we know for sure. And we haven't studied any of them, so we cannot say for sure. So the next step is we kind of have to look at how many people around the world have done this. Is this something in other cultures they've taken it, nothing bad happened? We can take a look at the herb and the properties, and is there anything about this herb? For instance, herbs like fenugreek is considered to have muscle contracting stimulation properties, so we tend to steer away from fenugreek during pregnancy. But some of the herbs, like one of the ones that is being used more now is goat's root, and we have no information positive or negative. So the women who have chosen that because of its glandular tissue stimulating properties, typically will take it in the last trimester, last 2 or 3 months, in modest dosages. Nobody is taking large dosages, and they're monitoring the situation. But I do want to say, as we're talking about herbs, that it's really, really important that moms talk with their pregnancy healthcare providers before they dive into this area. Get your healthcare provider on board with you. Make the decisions with them. I just think that's really, really important. You don't want to be doing stuff that they don't know about. You want to make sure you've got somebody monitoring everything. Then herbs like an alfalfa is considered to be pretty benign. That's one that I think women can take throughout a pregnancy. Nettles. Mm-hmm. In fact, there is one herbal product on the market that is made to help increase milk during a pregnancy when a woman is nursing, and it's made up of herbs that are considered safe for pregnancy. And I feel very comfortable, for instance, that product, just taking that might be stimulating and helpful as well.
Oh, that's a great idea. And kind of going along that too. So a mom who's had a previously low milk supply and now she's had her baby, do you recommend that she starts pumping immediately? So that way, if the baby, and I guess if the baby, like you had mentioned, if the baby is feeding very frequently, maybe she doesn't need the pump. But if, say, the baby's feeding roughly 8 times in a 24-hour period, do you think that it would be helpful to throw in a couple pumping sessions to help maximize her supply?
Well, I can tell you, my co-author Diana, that's one of the strategies that she uses with the mothers who are dealing with reduction surgery. And the idea is to super stimulate what you have. It's not that, in that case, the baby is doing a good job, but babies quit when they're full or when they're tired. And the advantage of the pump is it keeps going. So the idea is just to super stimulate what you do have.
Okay. Ladies, did you do anything? I know that there are two women in our panel who have had second children. And so Ashley and Laura, did you do anything extra right after your second was born to help bring in a fuller supply? Or maybe during your pregnancy as well?
I actually, when I was pregnant, I did some breast massage because I had read that might help stimulate more growth, because I was checking my breasts for growth and I didn't have a lot during pregnancy. I also expressed a little bit of colostrum, maybe more out of curiosity to see if it was there yet. And I did try to do some manual expression after my daughter was born as well, but I probably didn't do the best job at it because I was pretty tired most of the time.
How about you, Laura?
I didn't really do anything while I was pregnant. Maybe, expressing a little colostrum. Same thing, kind of out of curiosity if anything was going on. But then after he was born, it was definitely more feeding him frequently.
And he had a good latch, too, that was for sure. He knew what he was doing. I'm glad that you both brought up this expression of colostrum in pregnancy. That's something we interviewed Diana actually in our last episode, and she had mentioned that. And we didn't really get to delve into it too much. But Lisa, do you find that is helpful? And if it is, why is that something that women should kind of think about doing?
I have not personally been able to do that a lot with my clients, but I know other mothers that have been doing it. And Sue Cox is a lactation consultant in Australia. She's the one that really got the ball rolling on this. And the idea that just touching the breasts, as you were saying, massage, taking some colostrum out, just kind of stimulating the body to make more, kind of get it going even before the baby comes. You're not making mature milk, but just kind of keeping that flow of the colostrum going. And some people feel that it is helpful. There is a culture where it is the job, the responsibility of the husband, the partner, to suckle the wife's breast during the pregnancy. And in that culture, they have excellent milk supplies. And that's his job, to make sure that she has an excellent milk supply. So that strategy is based in part on that cultural strategy.
Oh, wow.
Now, I do want to just caution the idea of checking your colostrum to make sure that you have colostrum. And I totally get that. Most ironically, my daughter, we could not get a drop out of her whole pregnancy. And not even could I get a drop out of her after the baby was born, but her milk came in normally. So whether you can express colostrum physically or not is not the last word on whether you can make milk.
And also, just the nipple stimulation, if you are at high risk for preterm labor and things like that, would you use caution in that as well?
Only if you are at high risk.
Okay.
This is something women are not doing the whole pregnancy. They're generally doing it the last month or so. And so long as you're not forbidden to have sex, you're not forbidden to, if you nurse a toddler, things like that, it should not be a big deal. And the bottom line is, if you find that you're triggering too many contractions, you stop. You just stop. It's
Pay attention to your body.
Yes.
Fantastic. All right. Well, when we come back, Lisa will discuss some additional ways to maximize your milk supply, as well as how emotions and stress can play a role in breast milk supply. We'll be right back. Okay, and we're back with our expert today. We're talking about breastfeeding after a previous low milk supply, and our expert, Lisa Marasco, is here talking about this topic with us. And during the break, Lisa had mentioned that she has a favorite herb that she likes to use during pregnancy. And so, Lisa, do you want to tell us about that herb?
The herb is we call it malunggay, or the Filipinos call it malunggay. It's actually Moringa oleifera, and it has a very long tradition in the Filipino culture. That is their go-to herb. But I shouldn't say herb, I should say plant, because it's a vegetable. They eat it. They have a wonderful soup that they make called tinola, and tinola is made with a chicken broth, which is considered good for milk production. It has green papaya, which also has a strong tradition, and it has the malunggay leaves. I call that super lactation soup. I think it's awesome. But because it's a vegetable, and because it has these wonderful milk-producing, stimulating properties, and also there's research behind it, which is like the best thing of all. I have more research on malunggay in my files than on any other herb. It's just not in the Western literature. It's not easy to find. There is one particular study. It has not been published, but there was a study that was done. They were giving women the last 3 to 4 weeks of the pregnancy some Malunge, and then they stopped them at delivery, and then they checked their prolactin levels to see if that made a difference, and they checked their milk productions over time. And it was interesting because the prolactin levels were a little bit low, a little lower than the control group that didn't have any initially, but then it quickly switched around, and the prolactin levels stayed very elevated, and the milk production levels were higher, and they sustained after over weeks, and the babies grew more rapidly. So that is impressive, and I just feel comfortable because it's a vegetable. I mean, you can take it in a little capsule, or you can just eat it during the pregnancy. And when we're talking about amounts that are normal eating amounts, and we are not mega dosing here, but just normal eating amounts, I love it. I love this as a strategy.
That's fantastic. And I guess kind of going along that too, do you have some favorite lactogenic foods that you typically recommend for moms with low milk supply, or even ones that just want to support their milk supply?
I do. Barley is one of them. If you've ever heard drink a beer to make more milk, the study looked at that, and they discovered it was a polysaccharide in the barley. So you don't have to drink the beer. You can just get the barley. There are recipes on the internet for barley water. You can put barley in soup. You can eat it straight as a grain. Barley is really, really good for milk production, and has that research behind it. Oatmeal has a very strong reputation here in the U.S. I like oatmeal. And quinoa is another one and I like quinoa a lot as well, and it's very, very nutritious. Ironically, there's a theme here, and it's whole grains.
Yeah.
Whole
Nutrient
grains.
dense.
Yes.
Absolutely. Okay, thank you. Lisa, what techniques can a mother with a previous low milk supply try to help maximize her supply with consecutive children? Do you find that milk supply tends to increase with each child?
I think that's all over the map.
That is all
for
over the
some
map.
people,
Okay.
it increases. The research says, and there is a study that looked at this, and they said the second time around, women almost always made more milk than they did the first time around. So for that reason alone, I think that it's worth trying. But I also think that it's worth really thinking forward, what can I do to make a difference? And this strategy needs to be tailored to what the woman's situation is, as much as she can understand. The basic things are, at least after birth, you want to make sure that the baby goes to the breast very quickly, trying to keep that baby at breast even in the first couple hours, and keeping that closeness. Lots of skin-to-skin contact. Skin-to-skin contact literally helps to increase prolactin levels, which is going to help with milk production. And then making sure that we have continued frequency of feeding. There are some women who will be very aggressive and want to add pumping to that. And I don't push that. I think it's an individual thing because that's a lot of work. But there are some moms that are willing to do that, and that is another good strategy, the idea of just super stimulating the tissue. The one thing that's really important is that first week especially, this is a stage is being set. And what happens in that stage, for some women, they can do everything wrong and it still works out really well. But for a woman who has this history, who feel, your milk making abilities are more fragile, then you're going to try and stack that deck in your favor. And all of these things, being on top of these things, especially that first week, can make a difference. I do know that some women will even try a galactagogue, from that day one. As soon as the baby's born, they'll take it to see if they can maximize what happens right from that point.
Okay. I know that many of the women that I've worked with in my own practice who have had a previously low milk supply are very nervous and apprehensive about trying to breastfeed another child. They've been disappointed the first time around. Panelists, ladies, what were your feelings towards breastfeeding if you've had another child? And then Elizabeth, obviously you've not had another child yet, but are you nervous about attempting this one more time?
One of the reasons I decided to be a part of this panel is because it was so traumatizing not being able to breastfeed that it's almost like I don't want to have another child because I don't want to do it again. So that's why I'm here, to maybe feel empowered, like it might work next time in case it's in the cards that we have another child. So yeah, there's a lot of apprehension and a lot of probably a little bit of post-traumatic stress disorder from it. So that's kind of why I'm here. It's really good to hear what you have to say, and it's, gives me a little bit of hope.
Thank you for sharing, Elizabeth. Laura, how about you?
The second time around, I had that fear in the back of my mind. It's not going to work. It's not going to work because it didn't the first time around. And I had a lot of people telling me it would be different. So when it wasn't, it was devastating again. Now that we're going, for a third round, I'm telling myself not to get my hopes up, and I will do whatever I can. I'm prepared to be disappointed, but I'm in a better state of mind and more prepared for it to happen again.
I would like to add as well, I mean, the fact that your second child actually just weaned 2 weeks ago at 20 months, is that?
Almost 20.
Yeah, so even though there was a low milk supply, the relationship...
Yeah, it didn't work out the way I had planned it, but we definitely had a special relationship, and I wouldn't change that for anything.
Yeah, absolutely. Ashley, how about you?
Oh, definitely. I think that the emotional stress was there before the birth of my second baby. I was more afraid of breastfeeding than I was of my natural childbirth that I had planned. I think it really helped me having a lactation consultant ahead of time, knowing that I had the support there when my baby was going to be born and right away. And so I had a plan and I had people to support me. But I definitely feel like my emotional level and the stress level possibly, I worry, sometimes hinders my milk supply. And the weeks that she doesn't gain, I freak out. And then the weeks that she does, I'm excited. So my emotions are up and down like a roller coaster. And I know that has to affect my body.
And Lisa, I would like to ask you about that. I, like you had mentioned, post-traumatic stress disorder. I feel like a lot of the women that I see, definitely, as you had mentioned too, Laura, the minute you hit 2 days, all of a sudden it was like, oh my gosh, I'm repeating this again. Do you find that this can inhibit, like Ashley's talking about, the stress can actually inhibit the milk supply as well? Or I can inhibit everything. I mean,
well, I think that the
factor.
stress doesn't help. I think that makes things more difficult. I believe in the strength of the body to overcome things. I mean, if stress, we know that stress can have effects on, mentally, psychologically. At the same time, we are programmed to survive, and our bodies are programmed to overcome that. So, on the short term, yes, it can affect things, but you're aware of it too, and you're kind of dealing with it psychologically in your mind, just, okay, I'm feeling this way. And in fact, there are some CDs that have been put out they're like hypnosis, relaxation CDs, just to kind of help moms to relax and get them in that calmer frame of mind, to kind of overcome that. And there is a research study that showed that the women who listened to those CDs, the more often they listened, the more milk they seemed to make. Was very interesting. But I want to address Elizabeth because she's still fresh from the trauma of this situation. And what I find is moms here that, what I hear from them again and again is they said, I never dreamed I would have problems breastfeeding. You're just thinking, I get through the birth, that's all there is to it. It's all downhill. It's easier from here. And your dream has been shattered. And that, that's really, really traumatizing. That's hard to deal with. And I'm really glad that you recognize that it's like post-traumatic stress disorder. It really is. And and I hope that the people around you take you seriously. I hope that they're listening to you, and I hope that they allow you to grieve the loss of that dream that you have had to deal with, because that's what it is. For the future, I think you just kind of want to heal a little bit right now, but don't take it off the table for the future. I think the important part is you're going to look at your own situation, say, what can I do? What can I do for me? Lay out your plan, lay out your strategy, put your best effort there, but a reasonable best effort. I think that, then just, you're going to have to kind of say, okay, I'm going to hope for the best. I'm going to prepare myself for the worst. And just let it ride, see what happens, and have that support system in place again. But Laura talked about something really important. She talked about the relationship, and that's the thing. We tend to think it's all about the milk. And that we're milk production. That's what we're talking about today. But the other half of breastfeeding is a relationship. Nobody can take that away from you. You can have that relationship with your baby no matter what happens on how much milk you make. And I would really encourage you to really think about that side of the equation. Put more emphasis onto that than on how much milk you make. The milk will be a bonus. Anything we can do to increase that will be a bonus. But enjoy that other part. You can still have that.
Thank you. Lisa, what resources would you recommend for mothers who are dealing with chronically low milk supply? And are there any lesser known ones that you'd like to share as well?
Resources or therapies?
Oh, that's a good. I guess. Maybe let's divide it out a little bit. So, resources, for example, if you have books, websites, other in-person things that you think would be helpful, and then we can talk about the therapies.
So, aside from the book that Diane and I wrote, and we basically did because there wasn't anything out there, I really am a fan of Hillary Jacobson's book Mother Food. And there's also another website called Mothers Overcoming Breastfeeding Issues, Moby, and it is full of women who are struggling, women who are highly committed, want to make this work, but are also struggling tremendously and with the ups and downs, and they're all in that group together, supporting each other and sharing ideas, trying different things. And I think that, to me, having a support group like that, whether it's a virtual online support group or one physically in your town, that just is so important. But Hillary's work also on the lactogenic foods, that's something that I think we've disrespected culturally, and we need to re-respect it. For instance, the Philippine tradition of the malunggay, and in the Hispanic tradition, the atole con avena especially, which is it's just a drink made with oatmeal. There is precedent for these things, and there's a reason that they were feeding special foods to the new mothers. And maybe not every single one really works, but as I research foods more and more, I am starting to realize that there really is legitimacy to what these cultures are doing. So I appreciate the work that she's put into her book in bringing those cultural practices forward and kind of sharing those foods with us, among other things.
Absolutely. And you had mentioned also some different types of therapies too. We had talked about chiropractic, and anything else that you'd like to add to that list?
Well, it depends on how far-fetched you want to go on this one. There are different ideas out there. One of them, you can laugh, but sexual activity stimulates oxytocin, stimulates you get that letdown and everything. There's literally a research article that said, why are we not doing this more? Now, you get those partners involved, have a little fun. Maybe we'll stimulate a little more milk in the way. There's also a very interesting one called TENS, and that is, TENS is usually used for back pain or pain management, and it's electrical stimulation. And there was a doctor Dr. Ruth in the 1860s, 1880s, who wrote about a lot of different causes of the issues of women not making enough milk, and he had some very good insights back then. But this was one of the things that he mentioned, a couple of women that they did this thing. Now, like I said, this is really far-fetched, and you'd have to work with somebody on this, but when there's nothing else to go by, and you're just sitting there saying, is there anything else, before we throw in the towel? I think those are some interesting ideas.
Fantastic. Well, Lisa, thank you so much for your insight into breastfeeding after a previous low milk supply. And since we just barely touched the surface on this subject, you can find much more detailed information in Lisa's book, The Breastfeeding Mother's Guide to Making More Milk, and on her website, lowmilksupply.org. And for our Boob Group Club members, our conversation will continue at the end of this show. For more information about our Boob Group Club, please visit our website at theboobgroup.com. Before we wrap things up, here's Lara Adello talking about ways to overcome societal booby traps.
Hi, Boob Group listeners. I'm Lara Adello, a certified lactation educator, retail marketing manager at Best for Babes, and owner of Mama Pear Designs. I'm here to answer some of your most common questions about how you can achieve your personal breastfeeding goals without being undermined by cultural and institutional booby traps, such as, how can I plan for a breastfeeding-friendly birth? While we're pregnant, we do a lot of planning for our births, but how much time do we spend thinking about having a birth that sets us up well for breastfeeding? First, have a doula or another trained birth support person present. Why? Because doulas and labor coaches are skilled at helping you labor with as few interventions as possible. It's these interventions that can cause breastfeeding problems, such as delays in milk coming in, breast edema, sucking problems, and excess weight loss in the baby. Second, learn non-drug pain relief techniques for use before, in addition to, or instead of medications. Be sure that you know lots of laboring positions, massage techniques, acupressure points, visualization and breathing techniques, and use labor tools like birth balls, labor pools, etc. Third and last, learn your doctor or midwife's induction, C-section, and epidural rates. If the rates of any of these are higher than you're comfortable with, check out other options. Know these same statistics for the hospital you plan to deliver in as well. A special thank you to Tanya Lieberman, IBCLC, for writing the Booby Trap series for Best for Babes. Visit www.bestforbabes.org for more great information about how to meet your personal breastfeeding goals, and my business, www.mamapeardesigns.com, for breastfeeding supportive wearables. And be sure to listen to the Boob Group for fantastic conversations about breastfeeding and breastfeeding support.
Thank you so much to our experts and panelists and to all of our listeners. If you have any questions about today's show or the topics we discussed, call our Boob Group hotline at 619-866-4775 and we'll answer your question on an upcoming episode. If you have a breastfeeding topic you'd like to suggest, we'd love to hear about it. Simply visit our website at theboobgroup.com and send us an email through the contact link. Coming up next week, we have Leanne Webster discussing nutrition and losing weight while maintaining your milk supply. Thanks for listening to the Boob Group, because mothers know breast.
This has been a New Mommy Media production. The information and material contained in this episode are presented for educational purposes only. Statements and opinions expressed in this episode are not necessarily those of New Mommy Media and should not be considered facts. While such information and materials are believed to be accurate, it is not intended to replace or substitute for professional medical advice or care, and should not be used for diagnosing or treating healthcare problem or disease or prescribing any medication. If you have questions or concerns regarding your physical or mental health or the health of your baby, please seek assistance from a qualified healthcare provider.
Hey mamas, don't forget to check out Mighty Moms. It's our online community built for new moms just like you. Not only can you connect with other moms, but you can also join us backstage for special mom-only online events. And you'll also be notified when we're recording so you can join us as a special guest. Visit our website, newmommymedia.com, and click on the Mighty Moms banner. It's free. That's newmommymedia.com. See you there.